Okay, in the interim, the presentation is being put up. Let me first take a minute to just thank ICMAI for the warm welcome and my utmost gratitude for the hospitality and the reception, especially Mr. Chattopadhyay, Mr. Gupta and Mr. Bhati. Thank you so much. And my congratulations to you on the release of your book and your manual on internal audit and the research bulletin. In my previous role in SEBI, I was working on an investigation case and I interacted extensively with auditors. So your book on audit is of extreme interest to me, and maybe we can look at collaborating on certain audit functions after this session. I was not sure whether I would make in time, and attend this event. 3 days back, my chairman, Mr. K. Rajaraman, met the PM and the FM, and the meeting went on for the full day. And yesterday we had our board meeting. So there were a lot of exigencies in office, and I was worried whether I would make it or not, but I had given a commitment. And I was cleared to attend this event yesterday afternoon. And subsequently, at the last moment, I sent in my presentation and my travel requests. And CMA Yogendra Pal Singh was kind enough to pick up my phone at odd hours and make the necessary arrangements. So my gratitude and thanks to him as well, Mr. Yogendra Pal Singh. Thank you so much. And once again, congratulations to ICMAI for hosting such a wonderful conference, and thanks a lot for all your hospitality. Now, the topic of this event, of my presentation is building inclusive and sustainable fintech industry, the role of CMAs. Now, the problem is this, for a regulator, when we take decisions in the financial sector, 75%, the decisions are made on a lot of available data and information. 75% of the information is not in the public domain and known only to the regulator. 25% of the information is in the public domain. So when we take a decision, the people who are not privy to the non-public information pass blatant comments, and they say the regulator is not in his right mind, he is doing so and so, it is not correct, maybe it is too harsh, it is too fast, and so on. So when I'm invited to speak in a public function, I'm in a quandary, as to how much I'm authorized to disclose and, how much I can talk about a particular issue. So I'll take inspiration from Professor Vishwanath from the previous session, who's a professor from IIM Ahmedabad, and I'll just make a detour because we are short on time, and I'll tell you my experience. I was brought up in Goa. I am from Goa, and I did my schooling and college engineering in Goa itself. So I was in Goa for 25 years. Back in 1994, when I was in school, I was very much interested in robotics. And unfortunately, Goa is not known as an education state, education hub, unlike Bangalore or Pune. So the books or the encyclopedias pertaining to robotics were not readily available. And if they were available, like Encyclopedia Britannica or your big encyclopedias, they were very expensive. So middle class did not have access to encyclopedia or knowledge banks. Only the elite class did because they could afford it. Subsequent to the dawn of the internet, there was information access across all categories. And so all categories of people were able to access information and use that information to innovate. So today if you see Shark Tank India or Shark Tank USA, many of the applicants who come on Shark Tank's program, they have developed solutions by looking at YouTube videos or reading some information in the public domain on the internet. Just to give you an example, Elon Musk, one of my role models, back in 2015, Elon Musk suddenly Tesla Motors was holding a lot of patents on solar energy, solar cells, solar battery generation, and so on, He put all the patents in the public domain on his website. He said, I have spent money to do research, I have spent money to file the patents, but I'm putting all the patents out there in the public domain. Whoever wants to use it and build better systems, let him do it. I don't want any money in return, only acknowledge the role that my patent has played in your product. Now this is altruism at the highest level, So he just wanted to distribute the patents in such a way that the society becomes a better place. And these are all hardcore technology patents. So 1994, we had this situation as a schoolboy, I couldn't access certain libraries of information, which I can do today. 1999, I decided to become a computer engineer because there was the Y2K boom and Indian engineers were in high demand. At that time, Indian companies were valued at a very, very astronomical rate. Narayan Murthy and Azim Premji were in the top 20 richest people in the world list in 1999. Then 2001, the dot-com bubble crashed and a lot of companies went bust, a lot of people lost their jobs. And this was my first exposure to a financial crisis. A crisis not only within the technology sector, but also crisis within the financial sector. Our country also had to go through a tough phase during this time, 2001, 2002, 2003. These 3 years were not very easy. Subsequently, I graduated in 2003, and there were no jobs. I struggled for a year. I was unemployed. So I decided to join a startup, a tech startup in Goa. And that startup founder was a person who had made his money in the Y2K boom. He had made his fortune. He had come back, repatriated all the money, and he had settled down with his family in Goa. And he was a Goan itself. So I approached him, and he said, yeah, I'm having this startup, and let's do something. So I also thought that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs started in a garage in a startup and then became billionaires. So I'll also join a startup, I'll work, and one day I will become a billionaire. This is with this mentality, I joined this startup. Subsequently, we had a French client, and this is 2004. This is before broadband came to India. This is before e-commerce went mainstream. At that time, if you are a computer engineer and you are not working in Wipro, Satyam, TCS, or Infosys, you are considered to be useless. Okay, and working in a startup was not exactly the in thing to be done. Today, everybody wants to work in a startup and do this and do that. But back in 2004, it was not in vogue. It caused a lot of heartburn to my mother, saying that what is this useless guy doing at home, working in a startup, and I don't even know what he's doing throughout the day. So this was my experience in a fintech. This was technically a fintech firm, this startup, by today's standard. The word fintech was not in vogue at that time. Subsequently, I went to do my MBA in Narsimha, and 2007, in my second year of MBA, the stock market were skyrocketing. Sensex had hit 22,000. At the time, Lehman Brothers came on my campus, and Lehman Brothers was one of the highest recruiters on my campus in Narsimha, and one of the highest pay masters. I wanted to become an investment banker. But somehow during that placement phase, I did not apply to Lehman Brothers for reasons I don't know. I still don't know. Maybe if I had given the interview, I would have cracked it. But that fine day when I had to apply, send in my CV, I didn't feel good. I didn't feel right, and I didn't apply. I then gave my interviews, and then I was recruited directly by SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, in 2008, February of 2008. Lehman recruited my colleagues who got a very, very high pay compared to me. I came to SEBI in July 1, 2008. On September 15, 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed. There was carnage in the capital markets. I was in the surveillance department of SEBI, and trust me, the way we regulate capital markets, the way SEBI does it, we have one of the most powerful surveillance systems in the world. And just to give you an idea, at any given point in time, we can find out who's sitting where, behind which computer, behind what type of device, and what kind of order is entering. We can go up to the end details. It is how powerful the system is. And that's the reason why we have been able to crack many cases, pertaining to front running, insider trading, market manipulation, and so on. So this was my exposure to second crisis. 2008, that subprime crisis and the Lehman crisis was pretty bad. Everybody knows it. And there was a lot of unemployment around. So I went through my second financial crisis, and I had a lot of learnings. And this is where I saw the dark side of finance. Finance plus technology coupled. So 2001 was the first, 2008 was the second. So I had my 4 fruitful years in surveillance department. I had a lot of my learnings. And then I came to the investment management department of SEBI, where I was handling foreign portfolio investments in debt markets, corporate and government debt markets. These markets are also very technologically driven, and a lot of the foreign investors who were investing in these markets were pension funds, the sovereign wealth funds, and so on. So in 2000, approximately in 2013, see, what happened was that this issue of illegal mining in my hometown Goa was in vogue. Okay, a lot of corporates, many of which were listed, were mining iron ore and manganese ore without proper licenses in Goa, leading to environmental degradation, pollution of the underground water table, and so on. And the media was covering it left, right, and center. Unfortunately, nothing was done to stop it. This is 2013, and it was going on for the past 5 to 6 years. Suddenly, one sovereign wealth fund of Norway, called Norges Bank, which was investing in the Indian equity market, made a press release from Norway itself, and they said, look, we will not hold stock of companies which destroy the environment, which cause environmental degradation, which pollute the groundwater table, and so on. And they issued a list of companies on their website, which included Chinese, Hong Kong, Indian, American, and some Asian companies, and so on. So they exited from these stocks, and the stock price of these companies took a hit the very next day. So it was a message to all these companies that, look, I am a major investor. My position in the market is credibility. If I hold your stock, it means that I believe in you. If I don't hold your stock, it means I don't trust you. And when I exit from your company, the message is sent to the market that yes, you are not right. You are not the right stock to hold. I will not hold that stock. I will not buy that stock. I will not trade that stock. So this was my first exposure to a foreign investor, institutional investor, and a very, very powerful investor, exercising shareholder activism through proxy means. And subsequent to the announcement made by this Norges Bank, there were two companies which were in my hometown Goa, which were identified in that list, and those companies tightened up after that. So this was another exposure to me about corporate governance, the use of technology, the use of finance, and so on to bring about stability and fairness and transparency in the capital markets. I know I'm short on time, so I'll just make one more point. So fast forward to 2018. India and Singapore were working on bilateral relation and collaboration and so on. So the Ministry of Finance constituted something known as India-Singapore Joint Working Group on FinTech. And SEBI, RBI, and IRDAI, these were three regulators which are part of this working group along with other government departments. So I used to attend those meetings, and the meetings used to be chaired by Additional Secretary K. Rajaraman, who subsequently is my chairman today in IFSCA. So in those meetings, a lot of talk was being done on FinTech and the importance of FinTech in financial inclusion, both in India and Singapore. We had a population of 1.4 billion, Singapore had a population of 5 million. But even then, the financial inclusion in the FinTech aspect used to get a lot of importance. So the then chairman of SEBI, Mr. Ajay Tyagi, told me, you go to the Singapore FinTech Festival, find out what they're doing, and maybe see what we can implement in a similar manner in India. So 2018 November, I went to the Singapore FinTech Festival. It's a 3-day festival. It showcases all FinTechs across the world, one of the best festivals on this planet. So I attended the festival, and on the third day of that festival, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the event, and he inaugurated something known as the API exchange. Okay. In that crowd where he addressed, there was a 200+ strong crowd in that stage in Singapore, and our Prime Minister got a standing ovation, okay, for the speech that he made. And after the speech, all the FinTechs were surrounding him for photographs and for, at the time it was clear that he was one of the most admired leaders. But what was more important was that what he spoke during that speech, the speech is still in the public domain on the Monetary Authority of Singapore website. He gave some very hard-hitting pointers of how FinTech can be and should be used for financial inclusion, for transparency, for betterment of livelihood, and so on. He spoke about the Jan Dhan Aadhaar, Mobile Trinity, and so on. So this was the essence of FinTech and financial inclusion and finance. I could have spoken much more on this, but we are short on time. But I just wanted to share my experience with you. Maybe some other day we can have a more detailed session on this. And once again, my congratulations to ICMAI for hosting such a wonderful conference. And thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your hospitality. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.